Where the series of Maple story begins is actually within the limits of the Third Reich. So there would be no Nine Reich systems in this system. There would only be the origin of the thesis, which is to make the Second Reich. So in the Third Reich, not only is this a de-evolution, it is a literal speciation that nothing exists. So if speciation happens, then the species begins to have a record. And records are formed on the accounting table as if they are normal papacy. So the Pope in this system would actually be the conservative. So conservatives would be the litmus test for how the normal ideas of Republican law form. So if a Republican law is enacted, not only do the libertarians take control of the state, there's multiple litmuses on the people rather than single one. And this is how the skin of Frankish people form, which is that they are no longer part of a governing apparatus, but an apparatus of people trying to demonstrably destroy themselves through zombification. So once this conservative papacy is no longer in place because of this, they either fall or they lose their church. They form a Republican papacy based upon the oppositioning of these parties, which is a secret service membership. So the church is actually fighting the papacy, and the people within it do not have control, but they have the ability to speciate. So, under speciation, not only does the morality test begin to have consequences, there is a removal of them to make sure that they have a complexion that fits their attitude. So if there is a Bible Belt here, that would be considered the feudal government of communism. So communism would be the Greek aristocracy. Greek aristocracy says that there's a trinity that has no morality in it, and that's ethics. So ethics would be a demonstrable evil here because nobody gets to have anything but a single trinity. So it's Mormonism here, and they're sheltered by it. So if there is a single trinity, not only do they allow themselves to lose their monarchy or what they conceive as monarchy is really monopoly, there is a monogamy interest on whether or not they stay wedded to it. So now that monarchy has officially formed through the transparency to have no culture, culture has a record displacement through labels. And labels are a litmus test. So if labels exist to serve the public, not only are there multiple chapters in this censorship, there's a right to impeach the president. So that right to impeach the president is actually the right to conserve the Pope. So this is how capitalism forms. Capitalism forms through allowing the Pope to not take control, but allowing for the president to say that we the people have had enough, and we demand people to be president. So if people are Republican rather than Democratic, The Republicans are actually a culture for obeying the Trinity, and that creates Helena. So Helena of Sparta would actually be the Trojan Wars of the Bible. So the Bible is the king of Buddhism here. So the Buddha would have a mixed effect in this culture, which means they are not only a placenta, but they are a coping mechanism to have tabs on the Republican Party, which means this is an open beta test rather than a closed one. So if in an open beta, not only do these vouchers have symptoms to them, they now have a ethic of displacement for the people who no longer serve them through the Roman party. So if these Roman parties are chaptered enough, not only do they have membership apparatuses, armies arise up, and they form a council membership based upon who gets to have a revolutionary or a reactionary guard. So not only does this happen to have Maple Story ethics built in because of the Frankish, if the Frankish divide their society early enough, not only do they form a government based on individual liberty, they go backwards, which means they no longer record themselves as European Westerners, but as British Asianers. So in Eastern culture, not only does the West divide itself here, it becomes multiplexed onto a original point, which means this origin point has a cutoff date at the supply line. So the supply line here would be on whether or not they have mandatory lithic government rather than mandatory ethical government because they're going backwards. And the moral agreement would be to go above and destroy the aperture for whether or not they are still progressive. So there's a group out there called the progressives. They are actually people who plot conspiracy. So these are not just Chinese conspiracy theorists to us. These are people allowed into the union. So if they have a contingency plan for reaching the midpoint, not only does the midpoint become taxes, taxes becomes the placenta that they derive their government from, which is school. So if there are a district within a district within a district within a district, not only does school become two letter apartments, you have to balance these two apartments and then reach into the government to divide your budget. So this is how a government hotels itself as a party, is by doing music like this. So if musical numbers are bared witness to, not only do the magic and skill system begin to withdraw from the litmus test, these litmus tests are actually conserved through the papacy on both sides, and the accounting district becomes something of a speciation trademark for all of them. So not only do these trademarks begin to take effect, they also have numbers and letters to them. So these numbers and letters are oaths to take office, and taking office would be the regard for speech rights. But the speech rights here would actually be part of a skill system that the litmus test began when it zombified the public. So if a public is zombified or not, this makes a original point, a duration point, and these durations are actually litmuses for whether or not the next system gets proposed.